Real quick, I want to do a fair use.
My name's Esau, the one who sold his birthright for soup, and guess what? Still eating it. Because some of y'all throw shade, I'll trade your dignity for someone who left you on read, so don't judge me. And Jacob? That boy was waiting like a passive-aggressive ex with a bowl of soup and a contract. I was lightheaded and he said, say it, give me your birthright. Look, I didn't even get chicken, okay? It was lentils. Plant-based betrayal. I sold generational wealth for a vegan option. Don't act like you've never flopped. Homeboy dressed up like me, faked my whole vibe, voice cracking and all with the goat fur. And poor dad was like, yep, sounds like Esau. The audacity. I gave up a divine calling for soup. You gave yours up for a DM from someone with a private account. Y'all trade your purpose, you're calling for a situation with no carbs. Same flop, different stew. Bro got the blessing, the land, the legacy, but at least I didn't scam a blind old man using cosplay and goat fur. But go ahead, quote your god of Jacob, I'm chilling. Everyone's like, did you forgive him? Yeah, after I grilled a goat and remembered I'm still the fine twin. Birthright or not, still hairy, still fed. Say what you want. Esau flopped, Esau failed, blah, blah, but guess what? I'm still eating. And judging by y'all's life choices, so did you. Period.
Yeah. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh Shai. I want to give all praises and all honor and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who rule well and do well. To the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom, to the Israelite foreigners, who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father, and have come back to the fold. Shalom to your sisters, your Akhwathiim, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence. This your brother Ram Yehuda with the lesson. And that joint is pretty funny, man. Pretty fun, but back to the basics, right? So it says it's pretty funny, man. But hey, that's Esau. Esau is hilarious, bro. All these little so-called false allegations and things that they bring up, man. So we just go back to the basics real quick. So it says Genesis 25:21. It says, and Isaac intrigued the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and Yahweh, right, was intrigued of him, and Rebecca, his wife, conceived, right, and remember, Isaac is Yahweh Shai, right? So it says, and the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Yahweh, right? Right. So yeah, this is a blue letter. I'm going to transliterate real quick for the word struggle from the Genesis 25:22 and
Strong's H 7533. Ratsats.
Wait, what they say? Ratsat, to crash, oppress. See, even in the womb, this guy was trying to oppress us, right? To crush, to get crushed, be crushed, oppress. See, dude from the womb, right? In our mother's womb, this guy it was in his spirit to oppress us, to come against us. Be crushed, broken. Be broken, right? Trying to break us. Be crushed in pieces, right? To grievously, right? Whoa, wait. Grievously oppressed, right? Right? That's this guy, man. Let's see if there's a... Yeah, discouraged, right? It's trying to discourage you, right? To crush you, oppress you, grievously oppress, right? It says, and going back to it, Genesis 25:23, and Yahweh said unto her, right, through the prophet, right, through the seer, right, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people, right, shall be separated from thy bowels, and one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger, right? So they're in the womb, they're fighting with each other, basically oppressing each other, but one will have to have grievously oppressed the other, right, in order to try to obtain the birthright. So he's in the womb, obviously fighting to be the first to come out of the womb, right? And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, right? As the seer, the prophet, prophesied, said, the Lord said, was there. So, the Most High, hey, the Lord doesn't lie, man. He's true, right? Faithful and true, right? Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. But at this time, of course, Yahweh Shai was on the earth at this time because he's Isaac, right? And there's many reincarnations, and there's many carnations. So, and it says, and the first came out red all over, like, not as, but like, similar, not like that, not as one, but like an hairy garment, right? Making a symbol of Sandam. You know how you dye one of these goat skins or these ram skins, or you take one of the garments that you throw over the tent? He's red like that. Oh, okay. Now you get it. Okay, it came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called him Esau, which means Ashashua, means wasted away. So if Ashashua means wasted away, meaning he had no, not say he didn't have any melanin, but the hue is not deep in him. It's basically, you could see his blood forth through his skin. So with this, basically, if you break it down, it makes more sense. Understanding that Joshua means wasted away is he, right? Right? Or he waste away. Yeah, he's wasted away. Yeah, like basically saying he, the pigment. And after that came his brother out, and his name, after came out his brother, and his hand took hold of took hold on the heel of Esau. So Esau came out first, and basically that's what he is. He was oppressing Jacob in the womb in order to come out first to have that birthright. So that it was almost like an instinct to know, because if they're fighting in the womb, there's some type of instinct that they know, that they understand one of them have to come out first, and that's to obtain the birthright. But the Lord said, hey, the first that come out will be a servant to the younger, right? So unknowing to the two nations that are in their womb, they're fighting on who to come out first so they can obtain the birthright. Because what else is the fighting in there for? Except for you're trying to fight to get the birthright. You want to come out the womb first. So and Esau came out red all over. He came out first. And it says and his brother came out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob, which means Yaquab, right? Right, which means supplanter, right? And Isaac was 80 years old when she bore them, right? Yeah, so this is 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 8. And he said unto me, right, which is the angel speaking to Ezra, right? From Abraham unto Isaac, right? When Jacob, and Ashashua were born, of him Jaquab's hand held fast the heel of Ashashua, right? For Ashashua is the end of the world, and Jaquab is the beginning of it that followeth, right? And the hand of man is between, right? Right? Saying that there's a period, right? The heel and the hand, right? Other questions Esdras asked us not. So when you go into that, the Lord already said the elder shall rule. So Esau came out first. So if Esau, right, which is a Joshua at that time, was born first, what does that mean? He ruled. He's in rulership in the time that Yahushua is going to return. In the time of the end, the elder shall serve the younger. And that hand betwixt the hilt is that space. Yeah, so this is Revelation chapter 20, verse 1. And it says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, and with a great chain in his hand, right? Right? The hand is betwixt the heel and the hand. It says, right? And he laid hold on the dragon, which we know that's the Roman Empire, that old serpent, which we know that's the spirit of the man from the garden who deceived Eve, right? That same spirit, right? Which that same spirit carried over, which is the accuser, right? The devil, which is the accuser, and Satan, which is your adversary. So now that spirit of that man from that old serpent, that spirit of that man is also the accuser and your adversary, right? Which is Esau, right? And bound him 1,000 years, which in those 1,000 years, Esau was a servant unto Jacob. He was a slave. Those who didn't go into the Caucasus Mountains, right? Because all the Edomites didn't go into the Caucasus Mountains. There were some that was still amongst Jacob and even the other nations. Some of these other nations had Esau in slavery, but Esau's anger is mostly towards Jacob, right? You so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, right? And he was bound to be there for 1,000 years. So a lot of them went to the Caucasus Mountains, right? Technically, he's from Mount Seir, but he went into the Caucasus Mountains for some time, for about 1,000 years or so, right? Give or take. I think it was a little more than 1,000, but give or take, about 1,000, right? And cast him into the bottomless pit, which is over there in Europe, right? Europe, Russia, Caucasus Mountains, right? Where you get the word Caucasian from, the bottomless pit, and shut him up and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years. See, and at that time he was about deceiving the world, right? Because if you think about it, in the time of the disciples, which became apostles, none of them had mentioned the Romans being Esau, right? But Christians miss the whole point that their great apostle Paul for the Gentiles, that those Gentiles, that they're refused to recognize those Gentiles are Israelites. And Apostle Paul mentioned Esau, right? Showing you that he's not for the Gentiles, right? Not the Gentiles that you think, the Gentiles that are Israelites. That's who he came for. Those Gentiles. That he should not deceive the nations anymore till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, right? So a time period, this 1,000 years would have to go by in order for him to come back out and deceive the world again, right? To be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. See, and that hand betwixt the hill and the man is a season. So he had a time that he had to be a slave, right? Yeah. So this is Genesis chapter 27 and 37. It says, and Isaac, right, which is Yahushai, by the way, answered and said unto Joshua, which is Esau, behold, I have made him, right, which is Jacob, Yaquab, thy Lord. And a lot of people forget that it's already sealed, it's done. And it was before that, before the womb, before coming out the womb. He already said, the elder shall serve the younger. So it was already set up in the spirit that Jacob will be the Lord over Esau. He will be your Lord. But you forget that, you know? So while he's pouting and doing all these things, who's already set up for Jacob to be your Lord, right? And then this is Yahushai, which is Isaac at this time. He's solidifying what was already ordained in heavens, and that's basically as it is in heaven, so it is on earth, right there. That in itself, think about that, right? Let thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Well, that was a thing ordained in heaven from the Father through the seer, the prophet, speaking to Rebekah, saying there are two nations and I won't, and the elder shall serve the younger. And here it is, Yahushai, which at this time being Isaac, is solidifying that. Isaac answered and said unto Esau or Joshua, behold, which means feast your eyes, look and pay attention, feast your eyes upon this, feast your understanding upon this, right? Be tunnel vision, single-minded, understand this thing right here. There's no other interpretations to this. Behold, I have made him thy Lord, right? Right? Was it? I think Apostle always go into that Kyrie or Kyries, right? We're over you. We rule over you. You know what I'm saying? We're not God, but we're your God. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it goes. And all his brethren, so all the other nations, right? Because there are many. Abraham had many children, but all the nations, just we're gonna rule over all the nations, right? Have I given to him for servants, which means slaves. So all the nations are going to be slaves unto Jacob, unto Yaquab, unto Israel, right? As later on his name gets changed to, right? To Yasharallah, right? And with the corn and the wine have I sustained him, and what shall I do now unto thee? Like, hey, there's nothing else. There's nothing else could be done for you, right? Right? What should I do unto thee, my son? What can I do for you? And Esau said, right, because at the time he has to be a slave, right? And Esau said unto his father, has thus but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, my father. And Esau lift up his voice and wept. And Isaac, his father, answered and said unto him, Salakia, behold, hey, pay attention to this then. Thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. And this is almost pretty much the same thing he told Jacob. But there's going to be a little difference in how he breaks this down to Esau, right? It says the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above, and by thy sword shall thus live. See, and that's the addentation, that slight difference that he gave Esau compared to Jacob. Jacob was by promise from the Most High, and this guy is you're coming to basically you're going to assert your own authority on earth by the sword to obtain these blessings. So you're going to get it. You're going to get the fatness of the earth, right? He meant the entire earth, right? Because under the Roman Empire, they had just the known world. A lot of them didn't know about this side of the world over here, which is Arzareth or Turtle Island. No one knew. A lot of them didn't know about this part of the world, right? But Solomon and a couple of them Hamites knew because of Solomon's navy, right? But them Edomites and these other they didn't know nothing about that, right? So it says, by thy sword shall thus live and shall serve. Wait, going back to that, because it's going to be at the time period you're going to have to be a slave, and shall serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thus shall have dominion that thus shall break his yoke from off thy neck, right? You know what I mean? So this, when you go into the, so this is Revelation chapter 20, verse 7. It says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, right? So you had to be in chains, which really wasn't chains. It was just dust, the confusion. They had to be in a lower state, or in order not to deceive the world, right? Because my example I always like to use, before they went into the Caucasus Mountains, as Rome, they ruled, and Pilate put in 3 different languages, right? Which means they were pretty intelligent to be able to speak more than one language, right? He put on the Lord's over the cross in 3 different languages. Yahushai, Nazareth, king of Judea, right? He did that in 3 different languages, and then sometime when the angel came down and put that slumber on them, that confusion, right? And then of course people pushed them into the Caucasus Mountains because they were thieves, man. Right? They were nothing but thieves. Right? So it says, which they're same MO to this very day. They're just thieves. So it says, but when the 1,000 years, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan, which is our adversary, our enemy, shall be loosed out of his prison. And when they were coming out of the Caucasus Mountains, what was it? The 1100s, 1200s, the 1300s. They were fighting. They were winning. They were getting certain strongholds, doing these different things. 1400s, 1500s, and roughly about around the 1500s, they pretty much ruled most of Europe, where Jake was ruling at. That took over a lot of it back over, basically, right? Because before that they had kicked out Japhet, right? Which that was Japhet's land, and that's when they took on the names of Rome and Greece. And then when they had to go into the Caucasus Mountain, Jake's was ruling that. So-called black people were ruling for the 1,000 years that they were shut up, right? In the Caucasus Mountains, right? And when they came back out and took over Europe all over again. or what is known as Europe, Eurasia, whatever, however you want to say it. Doesn't matter. The whole point is they came back and took it over. And now, once they took it back over, history, things and books, things, they went back into those things to learn in the history, books, things, and, they know that they were the Romans, right? Because through the books. And she'll go out to deceive, and so then once they learned the history, you also gotta what? Rewrite history. Iconoclasm, all these different things. Now you have to change the images of the saints into so-called white people, right? Self-proclaimed white people. You gotta paint the likeness of your image upon these things to deceive, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, right? And then this means the whole entire habited earth, right? Right? Meaning Cristobal Colon had to reach the new world, so to speak, right? So as he come out to deceive, which he done it before, or he sought to do it before. Right here, it says First Maccabees 3:48, and they and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen, which is talking about Esau, this is the time of the Greeks. This was Esau, Edom, had sought to paint the likeness of their image. So they had already they thought to do it, but at the time Judas Maccabeus stood up and fought against them, so they couldn't do it. But that was part of the deception, right? And it says, and Judas said, arm yourselves, be valiant men, and see that ye be in readiness against the morning, that ye may fight with these nations that are assembled together against us to destroy us and our sanctuary, right? So he stood up and he fought against them. So they didn't necessarily do it, but they sought to do it, right? They wanted to do the things, right? Right. So this is 2 Corinthians 11:14 NLT. It says, but I am not surprised. Even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. He disguised himself, and that's ultimately what Esau has done. That's why he came out to deceive the nations, disguise themselves under these different names, Greek, Roman, in those times. But then when he came back out, he called himself French and English and British and Dutch and all these different other names that he would never known as, right? And those are all disguises to deceive the nations, right? But he also will transform himself, says, and KJV says, and no marvel, for Satan himself, right, which is our enemy, right? Satan means adversary, our enemy. Himself, which is Esau, is transformed into an angel of light, which angel basically represents the saints, the Israelites. He will make himself to be the Israelites, right? Right, going back into what they were trying to do that back then, but Judas Maccabeus, he fought, and didn't allow them to obtain that then at that time, right? So wherefore it is not no great thing if his minister, so he'll put in different people, they have the, Jesuits, and they have people infiltrate places, and they make people do certain agendas. That's why certain places, 501c3, you cannot teach the whole entire truth, right? You got a gag clause upon you, whether it's the name, right? You got Bishop Nate, and you got all these other ones. They get these couple millions of dollars. Now they can't say Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, or if they say it in passing or reference, and they don't put the respect on it the way they're supposed to, right? So don't marvel, you know, at these things, if therefore it is no great thing if his ministers also transform as the ministers of righteousness, right? They're really liars, thieves, all these other different things, but they're going to pretend to be righteous, right? They're going to pretend we're the Jewish, we're the Israeli, right? Which it's be telling within the name, right? Ish is a suffix, right? Something pertaining to something that is, but not quite that. You're kind of, but you're not that, right? Israeli. There's no such thing as an Israeli, right? It doesn't begin to make sense, right? Even in their own dictionary, the Jewish Encyclopedia says that modern day Jewry is Edom, right? But they don't want to push that out there like that. But it was out there at one point in time. But of course, they're trying to control the narrative. That's part of deception. Whose end shall be according to their works. So you ain't gonna be destroyed anyway, right? You are still gonna end up being a servant, a slave unto Jacob, unto Yaquab, right? So let's go into that transliteration real quick of marvel.
Strong's G 2298. Thalmastas.
Thalmastas says one wonderful, marvelous, right? Worthy of pauses. I don't know how to say that. Pious. Oh yeah, pious. Yeah, we need pious towards. Yeah. Admire, right? Admirable. Admiration. Yeah, admiration. Admirable. Right? Oh, look at this. Passing human comprehension. See, and a lot of people, things go over people's head, right? Causing, this was causing amazement joint with terror. So how did they get it? How did they get the world? Right? By the sword. And by the sword, they cause what? Terror. Right? Right? They cause terror by the sword. So that's how they got it. Exactly how they got it. Right? Going to the thing. To wonder at, marvel. Right? To be wondered, to be admiration. Okay, look right here. It says something about Revelations 17 and 8. Let's go to that real quick. Yeah, so this is Revelation chapter 17 18, verse 8, the beast, right, which being the Roman Empire, which we understand that, right, the fourth beast, the Roman Empire that thus saw it was and is not, right? They was the Roman Empire, but as of the time, the 1,000 years that they were going to be shut up for a while, they were not, anything was not, and shall ascend out, because of this, where they were shut up. They were shut up. Shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. They're going to come out of the Caucasus Mountains to deceive the nations again, right? To the four corners of the earth, right? In order to do that, the whole thing with Christopher Columbus, all those other things had to take place. The transatlantic slave trade, all those things had to take place, right? In order for them to ascend out of the bottomless pit, which is the Caucasus Mountains, and go into perdition, right? They're going to go into destruction because they're going to rule that short space, but they're going to go into destruction, which is World War III. They're going to push the Grapho, push the chip, and World War III is going to come in, and they're going to be destroyed. They're going to go into slavery anyway. All these things are going to be for naught. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder. See, going into that word, wonder. And it also went into what? Terror, to join with terror. So you're gonna marvel. You're gonna have this admiration for him. But most of that admiration for this devil came out of the terror that he gave people, right? That he was going to rule the world by the sword, right? Whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, right? Because it's the only nation that will not. Esau is the only nation. When you go to the dictionary, the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, it says Edom, the only nation, will not be giving any mercy. Basically, Obadiah 1 and 18, right? They're going to be out of here. Excommunicado, right? They're going to be out of there, right? It says, that was like a reference from John Wick, right? But that's what you're going to be. You're going to get excommunicado. You're going to be no more communicating, no more anything. And which this was set up from the beginning. When they behold the beast, right, which is this Roman Empire, which is going to be the second leg of the Roman Empire, which is America, Babylon the Great, NATO, EU, and America, right? That was, right, they was the Roman Empire and is not, right? When the time they were in the Caucasus Mountains, they wasn't anything in the time of the Caucasus Mountains when they were grunting, making noise as a it says like an ass, like a donkey, whatever, right? When they were doing that, grunting, eating mellows by the bushes, they were nothing. They were not, and is not, and yet is, and now they are. And yet is now they are that second leg of Rome, right? NATO, EU, and America, and they're going to be destroyed, right? And that's one of the things that wonder or marvel, part of that marvel is to join with terror, right? They're going to rule by the sword and join that marveling with terror, right? And most of that's because you never, like one brother brought that out. Before Esau ruled, you never heard of a terrorist. this and that and that. And we know that most of these so-called terrorist things and ISIS and all these other different things are really Esau, right? All these are all home red flag events, false flag events, right? I mean, homegrown things to continue to war and fight and make money, because this is how he's ruling, by terror, right? And when he rules by this terror, and once he gets the whole entire earth, right? Go back to this right here. And once he gets all four corners of the earth, because it said the son of perdition, the one who's going to be in destruction, right? He's going to rule but a short space, a little while, right? And it says, and Gog of Magog to gather. And so when all this thing gonna happen, all it's gonna lead to is World War III. So you're gonna rule. You're gonna get the fatness of the earth. You're gonna get it by the sword. And when you do all these things, it's all it's gonna lead to is World War III. Because what's gonna happen is you're gonna be gathered together with Gog of Magog to gather together to battle World War III. The number of whom is as the sands of the sea. So you have a great numeral multitude of nations and people that go down to the valley of Yahweh Shabbat to war, to fight. And they went up upon the breadth of the earth, right? And compassed the camp of the saints, right? And you went to all the places of the world gathering Israelites, and if they didn't have them, you what it said, they gave gifts, and you sent Israelites as gifts to people, right? to ensure that we will be scattered around the world. That Deuteronomy 28 and 64 will be a real thing, whether you know it or not. You help to further Deuteronomy 28 and 64, by giving gifts. So we're going to be scattered. You could pass around the saints about, and the beloved city, right? And they're ruling in the land now, the beloved city, which is Jerusalem. They're there, but all it's going to do is going to invoke World War III. The least of the flock shall draw them out, which that's what's happening right now. And fire came down from the Most High, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakadash, out of heaven and devoured them, right? In the time of World War III. It's going to devour the mountain of troops, right? In Yahweh Shabbat, and also America, Babylon the Great. And the devil that deceived them that were cast into the lake of fire, right? Which is that's in America, right? That innumerable multitude in the valley of Yahweh Shabbat will be devoured, and then the devil that is cast down, the devil that deceived them was cast down into the lake of fire, right? Which is going to be here in America, and brimstone, where the beast, right? NATO, EU, and the false prophet dealing with the Catholic Church, all those different things. Satan transforming himself into an angel of light. All their ministers, all these people, this way that they could push their own false philosophy, their own doctrine, right? False prophets shall be tormented day and night forever and ever, right? You're never going to rule ever again. So once the Lord destroys America, destroy all those troops in the Middle East, right? In World War III, none of this stuff will ever exist ever again. Forever and ever, never again, right? Yeah, I'm going to come back here to Genesis 25 and 29. It says, and Jacob sod porridge, and Esau came from the field, right? Because he was a hunter. He loved to be out there hunting and doing all sorts of things. But obviously he didn't take any water or some little provisions and stuff for himself. So when he came back from hunting out of the field, and he was faint, he was almost like he was exhausted. I don't know if he had what was it, dehydration or whatever, but he was faint when he came out. Esau came out and was faint, and Esau said unto Jacob, Yaquab, right? Joshua said unto Yaquab, feed me, I pray thee, with some red porridge, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. See, now you're Edom, because you wanted the red porridge. Red meaning Edom, or Idawam, right? Idawam, which is red, so that's why your name came from Joshua to Idawam, which is kind of befitting because your blood show forth through your skin, so you're Idawam, and your descendants after you became Idawam, which is Edom, the Edomites, right? Because of the red porridge. And Yaquab, which is Jacob, right, which is supplanter. That's what Jacob means. It means to supplant you. So this is what he come on. Said, sell me this day thy birthright, which was already going to be his anyway because the Lord had already set it up. But this double seals it. This seals it, right? And Esau said, behold, right, means feast your eyes, look, pay attention. I am at the point to die. And what profit? So he's like, man, I'm about to die anyway. What profit shall this birthright do to me? So if I die, whoops, I ain't gonna have a birthright anyway. What difference does it make to me? Ain't no big deal, right? Now you see him whining and then trying to make it seem like Jacob was a dishonest man. No, you wanted something, you got to pay for it. I mean, that's what are we going through right now? We're subject to payment, right? And Jacob, which is Yaquab, said, swear to me this day. So he said, hey, swear. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob, right? Let's look that up real quick. Yeah, so this is Genesis 25:33. A little transliteration. I just want to check out that word swear. All right.
Strong's H 7650. Shavah. Shavah.
Shabbat. This is to swear, sworn, to swear, to take an oath. See? And that's ultimately what he did. He took an oath. Right? Yeah. Oath. Definition of oath. Look at this. A solemn promise. See, that's what he is. An oath. A solemn promise. Often invoking, and pay attention, often invoking a divine witness. The Most High, Yahweh, Basham, Yahweh Shai, a divine witness, right? Regarding one's future actions or behaviors. Oh, right? Right. So this is Genesis 27 and 1. And it came to pass that when Isaac was old and his eyes was dim, so that he could not see, he called Esau, Joshua, his eldest son, right? The eldest will serve the younger, right? His eldest son, and said unto him, my son. And he said unto him, behold, I am here, or here I am. Here am I, so like it. Here am I. And he said, behold, now I am old, and know not the day of my death. So he's like, I could die any day at this point, right? It says, and now, therefore, take, I pray thee, thy weapon, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out to the field, and take me some venison, and make me savory meat such as I love, and bring it to me, that, wait, here you go, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. So he was going to get the blessing. So Esau's making all this complaint right there. We just seen what oath mean, right? So why didn't he say, Father, I can't do it. I made an oath to Jacob for the birthright, so you got to bless him. He didn't do that. He he come back with this, you know what I mean? They end up saying this type of stuff because he didn't tell his dad what happened. So here it is. Isaac is saying this about Jacob, and then so is Esau. So it says, and he said, thy brother came with subtlety. See, now he's making it seem like he had to come in like but why did he have to come in with subtlety? Because you didn't just tell him that, you gave an oath. You gave a promise, right? You know, a divine promise at that, with a divine witness. You know what I'm saying? You gave a promise that you gave up your birthright. You were supposed to say something. Come up with all this bitching now. No, you should have said. But it made it seem like, oh yeah, well, Jacob, he just came in with the subtlety and had taken away thy blessing. Hey, you don't get a blessing now. Because he came in and got it, and it was subtlety. It was no. He only reason why he had to come in was subtlety, because you didn't just come out and be honest and say, "Hey, I already sold it. I gave it away." You know. And he said, and then here you are with the audacity to say this type of thing, Esau. And he said, is not he rightly called Jacob? Yes, he is. He's rightly called Jacob, for he supplanted me, and that's what Yahweh means. Yahweh means supplanter. So yeah, now you just gave the definition of his name. So that's what his name means. So did he rightly supplant you? Absolutely. He's rightly called Yahweh. He supplanted you. Yes, he supplanted. He hath supplanted me. These two times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he take away my blessing. And he said, has thou, or thus, not reserved a blessing for me, right? So now you know what I mean? You bitching and complaining, but you should have been a man of integrity and said, look, I already sold my birthright. I already sold everything. I gave up everything. And this was through the Spirit. Right? Already set up that the Most High said this was going to happen. This was meant to be as it is in heaven, so it should be on this earth. So with all that, I want to give all praises and all honor and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well. To the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, the elect, Shalom. To the Israelite foreigners, who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father, and have come back to the fold, Shalom. To you sisters, you Akwathium, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence, and above all, Kwam Yasharallah.